Before writing the first Republic Commando novel, Hard Contact, in 2004, Karen Traviss knew nothing of Star Wars beyond what happened in the films. So she worked closely with Ryan Kaufman of LucasArts to make sure that her novel fit within the prequel era. But she also had to stoke the reader's interest in the upcoming Republic Commando video game, which was scheduled to be released in February of 2005. The game follows the exploits of Delta Squad. However, Travis's novel focuses on a separate group of clone commandos, Omega Squad. So I'm pretty sure that I read Hard Contact before, but I remembered none of the details during this reread. So first, a brief summary. On a mission to destroy a nanovirus research facility on a separatist-occupied planet, 4 clone commandos try to survive under the very noses of their enemies. And matters don't improve when Darman, their demolitions expert, is separated from the rest during planetfall. And Darman's good luck in meeting a Jedi Padawan fades away once she admits that she is very inexperienced. For the isolated clone commanders and stranded Jedi, a long, dangerous journey lies ahead, and they'll have to make their way past mercenary fighters, droid forces, and suspicious natives. So Hard Contact is a relatively short Star Wars book. It's just under 300 pages. And I appreciated that because we had a limited number of characters and the plot was fairly simple. After Darman, Niner, Atin, and Phi lived through the Battle of Geonosis and in the process lost the members of their previous squads, they're put together to form Omega Squad and they're sent to the world of Keelura to capture an enemy scientist, Dr. Atin, and make sure that the nanovirus she's been working on, which is meant to target clone troopers, is destroyed. They're also told that a Jedi and his Padawan were previously dispatched to the planet, but they haven't heard anything further from them. As it turns out, that Jedi was captured by the Mandalorian mercenary Gez Hoken, and towards the beginning of the book is killed. So that means his Padawan is on the run. She has the plans to the research facility, but she doesn't know what to do and what steps to take next, and she's very worried that the native farmers will turn her in. In the process of landing on Keelura, Omega Squad's ship falls apart, so Darman is separated from the other 3 in the process. Darman meets up with that Jedi Padawan, Etain Chirmukin, and he's like, "You're our commander, you're gonna lead us." And she's like, excuse me, what? So we have Etain and Darman working together, and the other 3 commandos working together. They finally join forces along with a shapeshifter ally, Jinart. And so they have to take down the communications so that they can talk to each other. They don't have to worry about the separatists overhearing. They need to capture Dr. Atin, and they need to destroy all her research. And hopefully they can make it all out alive in the process. So let's talk about our clone commandos first. Of the 4, I feel like Traviss spent the most time with Darman, and in second place, most time was with the Sergeant Niner. We know that Atin has this scar across his face. He must have refused BACTA for it because it definitely sets him apart from the others. Atin also was trained by someone else than the other 3. Those 3 were all trained by a Mandalorian named Skirata, but Atin was trained by someone different, someone who seemed to have a very different approach, which comes across in his demeanor. He seems a bit more standoffish, but I think also what comes through is that he's already lost 2 squads and he doesn't want to lose another one. Phi is the one who uses humor as a coping mechanism, and also when things seem to get too rough, just like straight up withdraws, which was interesting. you definitely get the sense that everyone has a different personality, that, you know, they may all be the same genetic template, but how they've developed to cope with situations is very different, even if they do share some of the same traits. Niner is the sergeant, so he has to be in charge. But again, these guys have lived through basically the Battle of Geonosis and nothing else. So there are times when Niner sort of doubts himself, doubts if this is the right approach, but also knows that, hey, I'm in a leadership position here. Even if I'm not sure what we should be doing, I still gotta choose something because I'm the leader. Because they're dropped into a situation where they don't have all the intel they need, it's definitely the kind of scenario where Niner has plan A, and then plan B, and then plan C, and D, and it just keeps evolving from there, coming up with things on the fly. As I said in the summary, Darman is the demolitions expert. When their ship is going down, he's trying to save as much material as possible, even though Niner told him, hey, get out of the ship, you need to get out. Darman is also the first of the clone commandos to encounter the Jedi Padawan Etain. They form a friendship along the way, and I think that Etain's initial reluctance to be a commander, to take leadership of this group, leads Darman to step up more than he probably initially would have. The clone commandos are a little different than basic clone troopers because they have a little bit more initiative, but at the same time, here's someone who's meant to lead us. And he's like, okay, what do we do? And she's like, oh, what? That's a job that I have? I'm in charge? I also think that all of the clone commandos, but this especially comes through in Darman's scenes, view themselves as expendable and aren't worried about it in any way. They think, well, we're clones, that's why we were made. We were made to serve the Republic, and if we die in the process, that's fine, which is disconcerting to read. When we were first introduced to Etain, I was a little worried about her treatment because woefully inexperienced Padawan, I was like, oh, yikes. Are, like, the clone commandos just gonna be telling her off and doing everything in spite of her? While that attitude came through at times, it didn't really come through from the clone commandos, but it more came through from the shapeshifter Jin Art, who was helping them. She was sort of mean to Etain, very dismissive of her, and at times I could see why, because it was frustrating when you're like, girl, you need to start doing stuff and deciding stuff instead of just letting things happen around you. But other times I was like, okay, that's a little mean. And so having Etain be so passive, I wondered at times of that, and I think part of it was because we never saw her with her Jedi Master. She's on her own from the beginning of the novel. We briefly see him before he's killed, but that's it. And so I didn't get a sense of whether this was a Padawan-Master relationship like Lorana Jinsler and Joruus C'baoth had, where Lorana was kind and capable and compassionate, but having a master like C'baoth really ruined her self-esteem and made her overly question herself. Because we didn't see any of that dynamic between Etain and her master, I didn't get a sense of whether that was why she was like that or whether that was just her natural personality. But yeah, there were times where I was like, girl, buck up, come on, you gotta do stuff. But there were other times where I was like, well, yeah, I would probably be as scared and unwilling to take action as she is, because she doesn't even know about the Battle of Geonosis. She was completely flabbergasted by the existence of a clone army. So expecting a Jedi Padawan to step up and take command of troops was honestly probably beyond her. And I like that she formed a connection with these clone commandos. I get the sense that she is a teenager, that she is a younger woman. Like, if Obi-Wan in The Phantom Menace was a 25-year-old Padawan, I don't think Etain is that old. She just came across as very younger. So I felt like her having to work with these newbie clone commandos who have basically experience of one battle and that's it, worked well because their experience of the world around them is lacking at this point. Jyn Art, the shapeshifter, and her consort, who we briefly meet on the Republic ship when Omega Squad is briefed about their mission, were interesting characters. They end up being natives of Keelura, and that's why they're working with the Republic, because they want the Separatists gone. But Jyn Art also felt a little OP to me. I think the idea of shapeshifters that can change their, size is cool, and that was initially the sense I got from her consort on the ship, that they're black furred animal form, but they can change how big they are, how small they are, whether they're on 2 feet or 4 feet. But no, she can just straight up also look like a human, is why I say a bit too OP, because I think the changing your size and your shape is cool, letting her get into places. But then when she could turn into a human, she could just go wherever she likes. And we've already seen that with Claudites that are reptilian looking but can look like humans. So if you're gonna do that, why not just use them? If you're gonna make a shapeshifter species, at least make them unique and interesting. And then on the baddie front, we have the Mandalorian mercenary Gez Hoken, the separatist scientist Dr. Uthan, and a whole bunch of other ones. I really didn't keep track of the other ones. There's separatist lieutenants that are working with Hoken, and one was an Umbaran, and I honestly could not keep track of the other ones. And in fact, at one point when Atin and Darman got into the research facility and were trying to find Dr. Uthan, they shot and killed an Umbaran, and I was like, oh, there goes the lieutenant, he's dead. But I think that was another Umbaran, and whatever. So I basically focused on the Mandalorian and the scientist. The scientist is making a virus to kill clones, but right now it just would kill all humans. So I'm glad they did not try to deploy that, because that would have been a mess. She's captured pretty easily in the end, but knowing that she's a scientist who has no training or knowledge probably of how to shoot a blaster meant, yeah, I could see her being taken that easily. And the Mandalorian, Hoken, does not like the Nemodians, thinks himself very superior to them, but he's willing to take Nemodian money. He takes the lightsaber from Etain's master and ends up using it at various points, but it also seemed realistic in that he really doesn't understand how it works or why it works. More used it as a threatening tool than anything else. I was actually a little surprised that Hoken was killed at the end of the novel, because I know that there's more Republic Commando stories, so I was like, oh, well, maybe he'll be an overarching villain. Nope. The villains of this book are pretty much all eliminated in this book, so I'm not sure what's going to happen in future ones. Obviously, they'll be undertaking other missions, so I guess there will be other bad guys. Maybe it's more of a bad guy of the week type story than an overarching plot. And I'm pretty sure that when Karen Traviss was commissioned by Lucas Books and Del Rey for the first Republic Commando book, they didn't intend for it to be a series, because there's a 2-year gap in between the first one and the second one. It was more like, hey, let's do a video game tie-in novel. And then when that ended up being successful, they were like, sure, let's write more. So probably at this point in time, she had no idea that she'd go on to write more, and so it was like, let's just wrap this book up. Which I do appreciate. I appreciate when a book is contained and can stand alone, and I definitely got the sense from Hard Contact that you can read just the first one and be perfectly happy. And in fact, my memories of some of the later ones isn't as good as my memories of this first one. But let's head on to the issues section. My first issue is just a general, military sci-fi complaint, which is that I didn't always understand the terms that Traviss was using. I do think that compared to some of her other Star Wars books, there were a lot less British-isms in this one. She doesn't talk about kit and she actually says gear. But a lot of the military terms, if they didn't explain it, I was like, what is that? I'm gonna have to Google that now. And to be fair, a number of them are explained, that they'll say EP, and then it will be like, yeah, extraction point. And I'll be like, great, thank you. I appreciate that. Because other ones are just thrown out there, and I have no idea what they mean, and I have not played the Republic Commando game either, so it's like, if I'm meant to know that from there, I don't have any of this base knowledge. My second issue is a little bit with the end, at the climax. After Atin and Darman have captured Dr. Uthin, and they meet up with Etain, and they make their way to the extraction point. But meanwhile, Niner and Phi are under fire from Jez Hoken. And so, like, the Republic ship comes down, and Jedi Master Zay is like, okay, we have to take off. And then Etain basically has a meltdown where she's like, we can't take off without the other two. We have to get them. And I was like, because this felt like a little overdone. Like, I appreciated Etain coming to form a connection with these clone commandos, seeing that they are separate individuals, that they are human beings in their own right, that they aren't all the same, that they're very different. But I didn't quite like how it played out, that Zay's like, no, you have to leave them behind, and that she was a bit much. And then it seemed like that was the response he wanted her to take. And then the whole, like, oh no, you've grown too attached to Darman. I think you should stay on Keelura with me. And then she's like, okay guys, I'm staying here. Oh, but Darman, you could stay here. And Darman's like, no, I gotta go with my squad. And I'm like, I don't like that. I don't like that. I think because this ties into my biggest issue with hard contact. I can see why she does this, but I don't like it. Basically, when Etain first comes into contact with Darman, what she senses in the Force of him is she senses a literal child. And she's like, how old are you? And he's like, I'm 10 years old. And I'm like, Yes, I would agree with Travis that biologically, the clone troopers are 10 years old. But they also have this, like, sped up aging / growth, so that at 10 years old, they're adults. And yes, I would say that they don't have much experience beyond what their training has taught them. But the feelings I got when I read, like, she's sensing a child, and unfortunately that, like, pretty much went away at a certain point, thank goodness, but, like, that gave me the heebie-jeebies like nothing else. And I think part of that is knowing that Etain has a romantic relationship with a clone in future books. Just the fact that, like, it's straight up, the text says, I'm 10 years old. And I was like, I don't want that. I don't want that to go there. No. No, 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 no. And I think that just makes, like, Etain's connection with them even worse. Like, if you perceive them in the Force as being children, but you're like, I don't know what I'm doing, you guys need to make all the decisions, but you perceive them as being children? Like, how are you okay with that? If anything were to make me step up as a Jedi, it would be sensing these commandos in the Force as children. I'd be like, oh shoot, I gotta take charge here. What the heck is going on? And the fact that, like, she perceives him in the Force as a child, but then is still like, I don't know. I can't command. I can't make decisions. You just gotta do what's best. In short, overall, I enjoyed Hard Contact. I think that keeping the cast of characters limited, keeping the location just on this world of Keelura, and having it be a self-contained standalone story really helped. We really got to know these four guys, know their personalities, know how they approach situations, and see how they're very different from each other. And more than anything, I think that Travis really humanized the clones here. I like some aspects of the Jedi Padawan Etain's character. I did not like how useless she was, but I did appreciate when she finally stepped up. So next time I'm going to be reading a short story that appeared in Star Wars Insider magazine, Omega Squad Targets by Karen Travis.